It's official. The New Orleans Saints' greatest player of all time is now a first-ballot Hall of Famer.
You are Locked On Saints, your daily New Orleans Saints podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is good, Who Dat Nation and Who Dat family? I am your host, your friend Ross Jackson, New Orleans native, your New Orleans Saints expert and credentialed member of the media covering those New Orleans Saints as a Saints beat writer over at LouisianaSports.net. And on today's episode of Locked On Saints, it's time to get excited about the future of the New Orleans Saints as the focus turns 100% to the off season. I'll tell you why Tyler Shough only getting 5 first-place votes for Offensive Rookie of the Year is absolute lunacy. And we'll kick everything off with the biggest story coming out of NFL honors, and that is New Orleans Saints quarterback Drew Brees becoming the team's first ever first-ballot Hall of Famer. We got all that and a little bit of lagniappe for you on today's episode of Locked On Saints. We appreciate you very much, whether it's your first time or your next time, being here with us this time, making us your first listen, and being an everydayer here on the show, which is a proud part of Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. Thank you for helping us get here as we bring you your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. It's the last call for football over at FanDuel. So if you're a new customer, bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Drew Brees is officially a first ballot Hall of Famer. Well, not officially. He has been elected as a first ballot Hall of Famer. He will be inducted at a later time. I absolutely expect the Saints to likely be playing in Canton, Ohio for the Hall of Fame game. So expect the days have changed. It is a new era in the NFL. 4 preseason games for the New Orleans Saints. He joins a class that includes also former Arizona Cardinals wide receiver Larry Fitzgerald, former Colts kicker Adam Vinatieri, and of course, former Carolina Panthers linebacker Luke Kuechly. Roger Craig also goes in as the senior finalist as well. Just for a little bit of a refresher on a couple of those names, Roger Craig, of course, was the first ever player to accumulate 1,000 rushing yards and receiving yards in a single season. Of course, a 3-time Super Bowl winner as well. Adam Vinatieri, still the all-time NFL leader in scoring. But Drew Brees gets in as the Saints' 11th ever Hall of Famer, but first ever first ballot Hall of Famer. And this is an award, a nomination, an election, a selection that we kept saying was very likely and that we expected going into NFL honors, although we couldn't take anything for granted, right? We saw what happened with Bill Belichick getting snubbed, Robert Kraft, all these other things. And then now there was some concern. Okay, is the NFL going to screw this one up and drop the ball? Or not the NFL, are the AP voters going to screw this one up and drop the ball on Drew Brees? They did not. Drew Brees, a 20-year NFL veteran, number 2 in passing yards all time, number 2 in completions all time, a 13-time Pro Bowler, a 2-time Offensive Player of the Year, 5,000-yard seasons. The list goes on and on and on and on. But over the 15 years that he was in New Orleans, he set the gold standard for what it meant to be an NFL superstar in a community that cares about its team. And I think that Drew Brees has done an incredible job of that, showing up in 2006, following, of course, the decimation of that came with Hurricane Katrina, a situation that I experienced and lived through. And I saw not only the decimation, or I don't even want to call it decimation, because like we as a people were resilient. And so there's probably a better word for that, but the impact of Hurricane Katrina and the revitalization that came after that. And for me, as I watched it, the Saints kind of echoed that same transition, right? Coming out of the 2005 season, going into 2006, there was new hope. Sean Payton, Reggie Bush, Drew Brees, and then that just got better and better and better and better, culminating a few years later in the Saints Super Bowl win, in which, in that game, Drew Brees was the Super Bowl MVP. This was the biggest thing that we were waiting on all throughout the night. He wasn't the only one up for an honor, of course. Rookie quarterback Tyler Shough was up for a Rookie of the Year, Offensive Rookie of the Year honor in the same night. Demario Davis felt like he could potentially be one of the favorites going into Walter Payton Man of the Year. Neither of those other two opportunities worked out. And of course, Jari Evans, former New Orleans Saints offensive lineman, former New Orleans Saints assistant offensive line coach, was also up for the Hall of Fame. But of course, with offensive linemen, it's always a little tricky, right? Kevin Mawe, it took 5 years for him to get in. So I think that Jari Evans will continue to get his opportunities and will eventually get the gold jacket that he deserves as one of the best offensive linemen and perhaps the best guard the Saints have ever seen in their history. But with the Drew Brees portion of all of this, who gave credit to Gayle Benson, Mickey Loomis, Sean Payton, Reggie Bush, all these other people in the process, I think one of the things that you're seeing from him that I think is now echoed in sort of the Saints' revitalized culture here going into the 2026 season is the idea of leadership and stepping into a leadership role. Sean Payton took to social media after Drew Brees was selected for the Hall of Fame, for the induction into the 2026 Hall of Fame, and talked about how he was a leader from the very beginning. And we're starting to see that around the New Orleans Saints now, right? Tyler Shough has kind of come in and immediately taken sort of that big time leadership vocal role. We're seeing the connection between him and the community very akin to the pathway that that Drew Brees took going into getting his connection with the community. And it's not just Drew Brees, it was also Brittany Brees. Now we're seeing Tyler Shough's wife, Jordan, also finding ways to connect with the community as well. And so we're seeing all of this kind of unfold in front of us. And it is that gold standard that Drew Brees set that has led him to the gold jacket and is now leading the New Orleans Saints into a potential new golden era, something that they have been striving for quite some time. Remember, the New Orleans Saints were the winningest team in the NFL between the 2017 and 2020 seasons, but then they fell to being tied for the 23rd most winningest team from that point forward, as they have had that sort of 5-year playoff drought. And the reason why those droughts, the lost games and things like that have been disappointing, and one of the reasons why the optimism around the Saints exists now, is because of the standard that was set well before by Drew Brees. Drew Brees is the yardstick against which success is measured for the New Orleans Saints and will continue to be moving forward. That is why Drew Brees is a first-ballot Hall of Famer and the first one in the New Orleans Saints franchise history, because he is the standard. He is the yardstick. He is the barometer for success in New Orleans when it comes to the conversation around the game of football and the incredible connection between the New Orleans Saints and the community that supports the team. That is why Drew Brees is a first ballot Hall of Famer. Congratulations to Drew. It was awesome to see tonight him get that honor and him be able to speak about, his time in New Orleans and all the people that helped him get there, his love for Sean Payton, his love for Gayle Benson, for Mickey Loomis, all of that. An incredible story. Drew Brees is going from being a guy that, some considered a bust during his time in San Diego, and now looking at where he stands for the New Orleans Saints, a Hall of Fame nominated quarterback on his first ballot. Absolutely awesome to see. All right, coming up next, we'll transition from one quarterback to another, taking a look at Tyler Shough's case for Offensive Rookie of the Year and how receiving only 5 votes shows a level of lunacy when it comes to those AP voters. We got that coming up for you next. We continue on with today's episode of Locked On Saints, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Saints brought to you by our friends over at ZocDoc. Finding a new doctor that you actually like can be a bit of a challenge, right? It could be a demanding situation, and sometimes those demands can be rough. Yeah, you want somebody that's in network nearby and that has availability, but those shouldn't be the only criteria that you end up checking those boxes on when it comes to somebody that's going to take care of your personal well-being. You also want a doctor that listens and that makes you feel comfortable and explains things clearly, one that's able to lay out what the path forward for you looks like with whatever treatment options you may need or take on. Well, finding that doctor is not impossible thanks to our friends over at ZocDoc. That's why more than 150,000 providers across all 50 states trust ZocDoc, and you can too, as they cover over 200 specialties. So stop putting off your doctor's appointments and go to ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNFL and find your dream doctor today. That's ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNFL, ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNFL. Today's episode also brought to you by our friends over at Indeed, the best place to go when you're hiring for your business because of Indeed sponsored jobs, which is going to help you get your job out in front of those high quality candidates so that you can get to talking to them faster and then not take up so much time trying to go through all these resumes and find the right person, find the perfect match with our friends over at Indeed. I guarantee that if every Offensive Rookie of the Year finalist submitted their resume to Indeed and the same 50 AP voters were to blind look at those resumes and say, this is the resume that checks all the boxes for Offensive Rookie of the Year, that Tyler Shough probably would have come out on top. So maybe we need to go away from the AP voting system and try out our friends over at Indeed. Spend more time talking to the candidates that you want to talk to with less stress, less time taken up, and more results by trying out Indeed sponsored jobs. Right now, our listeners get $75 in Indeed sponsored job credit to get your job the premium positioning that it deserves. Just head over to Indeed.com/LockedOnNFL. That's Indeed.com/LockedOnNFL. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, do it the right way with Indeed. All right, family. The fact that Tyler Shough didn't win Offensive Rookie of the Year isn't entirely surprising, but the fact that he only got like a handful of first place voters is absolutely preposterous. We appreciate you very much, as always, for being here with us, making us your first listen, and being an everydayer here on the show. We've had a great time over here in San Francisco during Super Bowl week. Make sure you go and check out all of the previous episodes. And if you're looking for more, check out the Everydayer Club in the link in the description as well. New Orleans Saints quarterback Tyler Shough finished second in voting when it came to Offensive Rookie of the Year. We went into the week with a full understanding that Tedaro McMillan, the Carolina Panthers wide receiver, who would be ultimately named Offensive Rookie of the Year, was the favorite to win the award. I went through and I did an anonymous poll of Seahawks players and New England Patriots players with the caveat that they could not vote for their own teammates, Travion Henderson, Gray Zabel, so on and so forth. And it became pretty clear that the players agreed that Tedaro McMillan was the guy. But I went through and I took a look at a bunch of different things about why it is that Tyler Shough deserved to win that role. We talked about him, leading quarterbacks in wins in this rookie class, about how he was second in passing yards, how he had the best completion percentage there, how he had one of the best passer ratings in the NFL on third downs, how he was one of the best fourth quarter quarterbacks, all those things. But the other thing that I went through and I looked at was each opponent that the Carolina Panthers went up against, as well as the New Orleans Saints went up against. And one thing that I think was a big time delineating factor, if any of the AP voters took the time to do this, is that one thing that Tedaro McMillan did that Tyler Shough did not do during their starts is that Tedaro McMillan faced top 10 defenses throughout the season. Tyler Shough did not. However, Tyler Shough only faced two defenses that finished worse than 20. Right? So outside of the top 20, Tedaro McMillan faced a number 24 defense, a number 25 defense, a number 27 defense, and most notably a number 32 passing defense. These are all passing defenses, by the way, not just general defense, right? I wanted to really cull this information to really look at what the opponents really looked like. But Buffalo's defense, New England's defense, and of course the New Orleans Saints defense, which Tedaro McMillan faced twice, were all top 10 passing defenses. The Saints were top 5 at number 4, and the Buffalo Bills were the best in the NFL. During those 4 games, we saw that Tedaro McMillan ended up catching 18 passes for 246 yards and no receiving touchdowns when facing those top 10 defenses. It's an average of just 4.5 catches per game for about 61-ish yards in those matchups, including one game in which he only caught like 20-something yards. I think it was like 25 yards up against the Saints defense. Where Tyler Shough, though, still set himself apart is that he might not have played top 10 defenses, but he did play against 4 games against top 15 passing defenses and some of the better pass rushes in the NFL, including the Atlanta Falcons, twice. And during those games, up against the Carolina Panthers, who are number 15, up against the Atlanta Falcons, who are number 13, Tyler Shough completed 96 passes Out of his 137 passing attempts, that's a 70.1% completion percentage against top 15 defenses for 1,056 yards, 4 passing touchdowns to just 2 interceptions. It's an average of completing around 28 to 29 passes per game for 214 yards, and then 2 passing touchdowns, or rather, 1 passing touchdown to half an interception per those games. So by an average of looking at the best opponents and the best passing defenses that both of these players played against, Tyler Shough had the better performance on a per game best defense faced scale. And the reason why I highlight that is because while Tetairoa McMillan received 41 votes for first place, there was an initial report that came out after the Offensive Rookie of the Year voting that showed that Tyler Shough received just 5. Now, it might have shifted, they might have miscounted or whatever it might be, but in any case, the fact that Tyler Shough showed up with less than a round of a 10% share of votes is preposterous to me when it comes to this award. This is the quarterback that actually went out there and was responsible for winning football games, had 3 game-winning drives, 2 fourth-quarter comebacks, so on and so forth. So I was very, very surprised by that count as a whole. I expected that if Tyler Shough didn't win Offensive Rookie of the Year, which again was sort of expected, that he'd still get 10, 15 of those votes from the AP voters. And instead, he ended up with something like 5, which is just wild to me, absolute lunacy. So it's one thing to not get the award. I understand that. And as we highlighted in yesterday's episode, the real excitement around Tyler Shough doesn't stop at Offensive Rookie of the Year. It's the franchise potential, right? It's not the Offensive Rookie of the Year trophy that Saints fans have twinkling in their eyes right now when looking at Tyler Shough. It's the Lombardi trophy that everybody is hoping that he will eventually be able to lead them to at least compete for, if not be able to bring home and bring back to the great state of Louisiana, great city of New Orleans at some point. And so the idea that the Offensive Rookie of the Year is the most important thing is a little bit kind of like short-term planning. The long-term planning, especially with a quarterback on a second-year contract, so on and so forth, a second round rookie contract, my apologies, so on and so forth. That's really about what the future can look like with Tyler Shough at the helm for the entire team, not just the individual award. So we understand that. But 5 votes? You can miss me with that one. I'm not sure that I'm buying in on all of that. But Tyler Shough, nonetheless, like, it was a whirlwind week for him, as he talked about after the event, after NFL honors. Certainly an incredible thing for him just to be recognized and to be a part of that engagement, a part of all of that, and to be recognized as a finalist and everything. And for Saints fans, like, there should be excitement around the fact that there was an Offensive Rookie of the Year finalist at the most important position in professional sports. And so, if nothing else, there is always that. But 5 votes, get out of my face. Coming up next, let's take a look at the excitement ahead for the New Orleans Saints as the focus turns 100% to the offseason. And let's not miss some of the good news the New Orleans Saints got very recently. We'll continue on with that as we continue on with today's episode of Locked On Saints, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. What if sports were traded like markets? Now you can put your sports IQ to work in real time with Robinhood prediction markets. It's not you against the house, it's you participating in a live market. You can buy or sell your positions live all game long and use your sports knowledge in the moments that matter. Robinhood prediction markets changes the game. It's people moving the action, so when momentum shifts, you can move with it. I always knew the game, never had a dynamic way to apply that knowledge, and now I can take part live in a market powered by people. You're no longer just a spectator. Play by play, you decide. Trade every play with Robinhood. Now available across the U.S. Download the Robinhood app now to begin. Futures and cleared swap trading involve significant risk and is not appropriate for everyone. Event contracts offered by Robinhood Derivatives, LLC, a registered futures commission, merchant, and swap firm. Today's episode of Locked On Saints also brought to you by friends over at Home Chef. Hey, look, it's a new year. Everyone's trying to simplify their routines, and dinner is a great place to begin, and that's where Home Chef can be very, very helpful. I've used Home Chef for some time now. I absolutely love it. They bring fresh, pre-portioned ingredients to your door so that you can head straight to the kitchen and get to cooking up something special, impress your friends, impress a date, looking like a master chef in the kitchen because of all the time that they've saved you. And you're going to be able to get some of these recipes that are simple but feel elevated as well. Even restaurant quality dishes that are co-created by people like Gordon Ramsay. Speaking of master chef, for a limited time, Home Chef is offering our listeners 50% off your first box, free shipping, and free dessert for life. Just go to homechef.com/lockedon. That's homechef.com/lockedon to get 50% off your first box, free shipping, and free dessert for life. Must be an active subscriber to receive free dessert. Let's get it, Who Dat Nation. Now that NFL Honors is over, we can begin to shift our attention for the New Orleans Saints 100% to the offseason. How they handle in-house free agents, the pending guys, the outgoing guys, how they handle free agency in terms of adding and acquiring talent, going into the draft and how they need to handle that. We'll also be able to get into things like schedule release, and then eventually it's 53-man roster cut downs after training camp, like all of that, all the things that have to happen between now and September when the regular season kicks off again. That is where our focus gets to go, which is always really exciting because this is at the point where anything is possible and there's promise abundant in all those other things. And so while Drew Brees is going to spend the offseason getting ready to be immortalized to the New Orleans Saints, we'll get to spend the offseason remodeling, right? Refreshing, rebuilding, and getting ready to go out there and compete again in 2026, which I do think that this team will have a true opportunity to do. And depending upon the decisions and the things that they do over the course of next few months, more than the next few months, they could absolutely set themselves up to actually take advantage of and cash in on that opportunity. And one thing that's going to make it a little bit easier for New Orleans, and this is another thing that we get to see kind of coming down the road here, but certainly something we'll be discussing here in future episodes, the salary cap. The New Orleans Saints got great news about the salary cap a couple of days ago, as did the rest of the NFL, but it's going to work out really well for the Saints in particular, is that this year's 2026 salary cap per club is going to be, according to a memo that was sent out via the NFL to NFL teams, somewhere between $301 to $305 roughly $million. That is a humongous win for the New Orleans Saints. Remember, they have some salary cap, not a ton, but they also have some unused salary cap from 2025 that they get to roll over into 2026. They got the cap relief of $30 million over the course of last year and this year when it came to Derek Carr. They've got the dead money coming off the books going into 27. The salary cap health is here. And oh, by the way, they have a rookie left tackle. They have a rookie right tackle. They have a rookie second round rookie quarterback. They have mostly affordable rookie scale guys in their wide receiver room, which is going to allow them to be able to invest in Chris Olave. There's so many of those little bitty pieces that end up helping to build the momentum for where the New Orleans Saints are headed next. And that is one of the reasons why I think that there is absolutely optimism for the Saints ahead. And I think that you should lean into it. I think that you should enjoy the optimism that's here because the Saints have a lot of opportunity ahead of them to add talent, to retain talent, to build around Tyler Shough, to continue to improve upon talent-wise Brandon Staley's fantastic defense from 2026. And in the process, they're going to lose some players. We don't know what the future of Cam Jordan, Demario Davis, Taysom Hill, Alante Taylor all are. Foster Morrow. We don't know their future. But the idea here is going to be not to just shed talent eventually, but also add talent to help you replace what it is that you've already lost, right? You're going to get some needs created in terms of pending free agents that might end up departing. So how do you address those holes, those needs, the things that you might need in order to make sure that you are ready as an NFL team to go out there and have A, properly built around your young quarterback, B, continue to build on the strengths that you already have, C, not necessarily in this order, but I'm just highlighting things as they come to me. C, when it comes to the idea of like taking care of the needs that you do have. And then D, go out there and compete because the Saints are still, after all, in the NFC South. And I do think the NFC South is going to be more challenging in 2026, but it's going to be challenging in that there's going to be a lot of good competition within the division, not challenging in that everyone's just bad and you're trying to escape badness amongst one another, which is kind of what this division's been over the course of the past few years. I do think you'll actually see competition within the NFC South, and I think that the Saints can absolutely hang with that competition. They certainly proved that here over the course of the 2025 season. We'll see how the changes that other teams have made in the division end up impacting their ability to compete, so on and so forth. And so I think now the right thing to do is to start to lean into the optimism, but also the road ahead and the work ahead that the New Orleans Saints have going into this offseason. So while it is optimistic, while it is promising, while it's impressive, while it's intriguing, while it's exciting, the Saints still have to do the right work, right? They still have to handle the questions and answer those questions with the correct answers in order to be able to take advantage of all of those things. And I think that 2025 was a great start. Great draft class for New Orleans, an opportunity to build on that going into what is a really good talent pool in this year's draft going into 2026. I think they made some great decisions when it came to talent retention in 2025, whether it was holding on to and extending Chase Young, holding on to and extending Juwan Johnson. We'll see if they're able to hold on to and extend Chris Olave this offseason. All of those little itty bitty pieces, which aren't really little itty bitty pieces, but all of those pieces come together to create sort of the larger picture of the promise, the excitement, the light at the end of the tunnel for the New Orleans Saints, who are looking to not extend their playoff drought to 6 years going into next season, which is a very important season for a lot of folks that have got to get this right. And I think the optimism that surrounds this New Orleans Saints team, which was capped off by some of the potential in the NFL honors, is really something that still continues to move forward beyond. All right, family, time for a little bit of lagniappe for those who made it all the way to this point in the episode, the real ones. What does that increased salary cap potential mean for New Orleans? Well, with all of those things that I highlighted, the raising of the salary cap, the Derek Carr money coming off the books, the rollover opportunity going from last year's salary cap into this year's salary cap, which again wasn't a ton, but still getting the opportunity to roll some over, all those things, that could put the Saints closer to, and in some projections even under, $20 million over the salary cap. And look, if you're new here and you've not been a part of the New Orleans Saints offseason contract overage, salary cap overage shenanigan part of the year, which we go through annually, or not go through, but like divvy out and detail very meticulously here locally every year, we've seen the New Orleans Saints dig themselves out of $100+ million holes and $70 million holes and $50 million holes. And now if they're sub $20 million holes, they're in a great position. And so that's a great projection for New Orleans as they look to do all the things that we just mentioned, right? Address all their needs, continue to build on their strengths and build around their quarterback. The Saints are going to be in a really good position to do that, to where the path to get under the salary cap is not going to be a long and arduous road. I mean, we were able to shed in our previous episode the salary cap overage of over $24 million, over $20+ million, by simply restructuring Juwan Johnson, restructuring Chase Young, both contracts that were built to be restructured, and then extending Chris Olave. And then bang, you were at least compliant, and then you can make some other moves in order to be able to have money to go out there and spend. That could potentially now be even easier for New Orleans going into this offseason. So it's a big opportunity for the Saints. They have a lot of money in 2027. That's going to decrease as they sign players here in 2026, because those players that they sign in 2026 will be paid and have contracts that go into and beyond 2027, so on and so forth. So there's not a perfect number here, but as of right now, it's a way more manageable number. And the lightest work, as I got Mickey Loomis to say during his end-of-year press conference alongside Kellen Moore, that the Saints have had when it comes to salary cap in some time. And it's another one of the many reasons why there's optimism about the New Orleans Saints moving forward. All right, family, coming up on Monday's episode, it's Mock Draft Monday, where we'll take a look at how even if the Saints go edge rusher in the first round, they can still build up their offense. We appreciate you very much, as always, for making us a party day, part of your routine, for saying yes to me on the show. If you see me, please say hi. And if you need anything else around your New Orleans Saints in between these episodes, make sure you follow me on your favorite social media at Ross Jackson Nola, Nola. Hit me up. Let me know how the family's doing. Let me know how you living. Let me know how your mom and them. And trust you, that nation. I'll holla at you.